They thought they had her cornered. A black woman in a sleek car, pulled over in the dead of night. They slipped drugs into her trunk, smirking, thinking she was just another easy target. But they had no idea who they were messing with. This wasn't just any woman. She was a CIA operative, and she was about to turn their world upside down. Stick around, because this story of prejudice, power misuse, and poetic justice will leave you speechless. Welcome to Stories Demystified, where we unravel tales of underdogs striking back against bullies, racists, and corrupt systems. Let's dive in. It all began on a humid evening in downtown Atlanta. Maya Thompson, 33, was driving home after a long day. Her dark suit was crisp, her posture calm but alert. Maya wasn't your average professional. She was a counterintelligence officer for the CIA, trained to stay cool under pressure, to read every situation, and to outsmart anyone who underestimated her. But that night, she was just a woman trying to get home. Her black SUV gleamed under the streetlights, a symbol of her hard-earned success. And that's exactly what caught the wrong kind of attention. Two white police officers, Officers Daniels and Carter, were patrolling the area. To them, a black woman in an expensive car was suspicious. They didn't need a real reason. They'd done this before, targeted people who didn't fit their idea of who should have nice things. They flipped on their sirens, and Maya pulled over smoothly, her hands visible on the wheel. She knew the drill. She'd faced prejudice her whole life, from schoolyard bullies to corporate snobs who doubted her credentials. But she wasn't fazed. Not yet. Officer Daniels approached her window, his flashlight blinding. "Step out of the vehicle," he barked. "You match the description of a suspect." Maya raised an eyebrow but complied. She handed over her license, registration, and a government-issued ID that clearly stated her CIA affiliation. Daniels barely glanced at it, tossing it back with a sneer. "Stay here," he said, while Carter circled her car like a vulture. Maya stood calmly, her sharp eyes tracking every move. She wasn't just watching, she was recording. A tiny camera hidden in her glasses captured everything, and her phone, tucked in her pocket, was picking up audio. Minutes later, Carter called out, "Well, look at this." He held up a small plastic bag of white powder, supposedly found in Maya's trunk. Her car, spotless and meticulously maintained, had been searched in under 5 minutes. Too clean, too convenient. Maya's lips twitched, but she said nothing. She knew what was happening. These cops weren't just abusing their power, they were framing her. They cuffed her, read her rights, and hauled her to the station. Daniels smirked as he shoved her into the patrol car. "You're in deep now," he said. Maya stayed silent, her mind racing but her face a mask of calm. She wasn't scared. She was strategizing. At the police station, the officers were cocky. They filed their report, claiming they'd caught a drug trafficker red-handed. They didn't know Maya was already 2 steps ahead. She'd dealt with worse, international spies, corrupt officials, you name it. A couple of small-town cops with a vendetta? Child's play. But she didn't tip her hand. Not yet. She wanted them to think they'd won, to dig their own graves deeper. And boy, did they. The next morning, Maya stood in a courtroom, still in her suit, hands cuffed but her posture unbroken. She hadn't called a lawyer. She hadn't even spoken much since her arrest. The judge, a stern older man, peered over his glasses as Officer Daniels took the stand. "Your Honor," Daniels said, his voice dripping with fake sincerity, "we found narcotics in the defendant's vehicle." A clear-cut case. The prosecutor nodded, confident. The small crowd in the courtroom, mostly reporters and a few curious locals, whispered among themselves. Another black woman caught up in the system. Same old story, right? Wrong. Maya cleared her throat, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. "Your Honor, I have evidence that proves my innocence." The judge raised an eyebrow. Daniels shifted uncomfortably. Maya continued, her tone calm but razor-sharp. "I have video and audio of the entire stop. And for the record, I'm a counterintelligence officer with the CIA." The courtroom went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Maya placed a flash drive on the table, her movements deliberate. "This will show everything." The judge ordered the footage played. A laptop was brought in, and the grainy video filled the screen. There it was, clear as day, Officer Carter pulling a small bag from his vest while Daniels distracted Maya. Carter slipping it into her trunk during the so-called search. The audio caught their whispers, their chuckles, their casual racism. "She won't talk her way out of this," Carter had muttered. The courtroom erupted. Reporters scribbled furiously. The judge's face hardened. Daniels and Carter went pale, their smirks gone. "Your Honor," Maya said, her voice steady, "these officers planted evidence to frame me. My car was clean. My record is spotless. And my credentials, which they ignored, confirm my identity." She slid her CIA ID across the table. The judge examined it, then looked at the officers like they were insects. "Officers Daniels and Carter," he said, his voice icy, "you're under arrest for evidence tampering, perjury, and abuse of power." Bailiffs moved in, cuffing the officers right there in the courtroom. Daniels stammered, "This is a mistake." Carter just stared at Maya, his jaw slack. The charges against her were dropped on the spot. The FBI was called in to investigate further, and whispers of a federal probe into the entire department began to spread. As Maya gathered her things, a reporter caught up with her outside the courthouse. "Why didn't you say something sooner?" he asked, shoving a microphone in her face. Maya smiled, a glint in her eye. "Because watching them bury themselves was the real justice." But the story doesn't end there. Maya didn't just walk away. She filed a formal complaint with the Department of Justice, sparking a wider investigation into systemic corruption in the Atlanta PD. Her footage, leaked to the press, went viral, igniting protests and calls for reform. Daniels and Carter? They faced federal charges, their careers and reputations in ashes. Maya, meanwhile, returned to her work at the CIA, her resolve stronger than ever. She'd faced prejudice, bullying, and power misuse head-on, and she'd won. This is what Stories Demystified is all about, underdogs like Maya taking on corrupt systems and coming out on top. It's about poetic justice, where bullies and racists get exactly what they deserve. Maya's story shows that no matter how powerful the oppressors seem, the truth can bring them down. And she didn't just win, she exposed a rotten system, proving that one person's courage can spark change. So, what do you think? Could you feel the suspense as Maya played her trump card? Drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from, Atlanta, New York, or maybe somewhere across the globe. If you love this story of an underdog's comeback, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our next tale of prejudice, showdowns, and poetic justice. Here at Stories Demystified, we're just getting started. Stay tuned for more.